the months after Michael's death, everyone was rushing to cash in. Every network aired a special tribute. Sony and AEG were rushing out a new movie. None of this surprised me. I've been following this saga for 5 years. I've talked to dozens of Michael's friends and employees. You saw him in the last 6 months of his life. How did he look? Did he look healthy? Was he happy?
To me, he seemed very happy, very enthusiastic, very energetic, very upbeat, and with big plans.
I've gone undercover, and everything I discovered led me in December 2008 to predict that Michael had only 6 months to live. 6 months before Michael died, there were insurmountable factors that set his death in motion. Number 1, debt. Years of legal bills and extravagant living had tapped Michael dry. Record sales were not what they once were. Everyone around Michael needed a handout.
There was a lot of stress with the money. He owed people a lot of money.
Michael lived beyond his means. He also felt that he could leverage himself to any amount of money.
Oh, you need money? Let's borrow it. Oh, well, we got equity here. Do you want that equity? Yeah, sure, why not?
Even though he should have been, by all accounts, a very wealthy man, he didn't have people around him that were helping him to protect his assets.
And all this confusion and debt, and it was, in his mind, overwhelming, because it's roughly $400 million. I showed him that there was light at the end of the tunnel.
Michael needed a mega comeback to bring in new revenue. Then came the announcement for one last tour that would put him right back on top.
This is the final curtain call.
We were creating the This Is It series of concerts for London's O2 Arena. When I was brought into the fold, there were 10 shows. And then after the overwhelming response, then there was the decision, the collective decision, because Michael Jackson never did anything he didn't want to do, the collective decision to do 50.
As soon as I heard about the concerts, the 50 concerts, and his performing, I said, that's it. It's never going to happen.
I don't think that Michael had the physical wherewithal to do 50 concert dates. And in fact, the people involved in negotiating said very clear he did not know that there was going to be 50 concert dates. He thought that it was going to be only 10.
They had enough requests to do 85 shows. So they went to Michael and they said, look, we got a request to do 85 shows. What do you think? I said, I just want to tell you, and I want to be honest with you, Michael, so you get this right now. 50 shows doesn't get you out of debt. I said, we got to do a lot of stadiums to make this up, but we can get this all under control. And he was fine with that.
I don't think Michael would have been fine with doing only 10 shows. You know, that would have been, not as many people.
He agreed to it. He signed it. Now, he would say to people, oh, I went to sleep and I agreed to 10 shows and I woke up and now I'm doing 50. That's his way of saying, I agreed to do 10, but by popular demand, I have to do 50.
The debt alone could not have pushed Michael to take on an overwhelming obligation of 50 shows. There was a second factor that never materialized, Michael's inner circle.
People around Michael Jackson were what we call enablers. They had a lot to gain from him and a lot to lose from him. He was dependent and ruled by others, and that really contributed to his demise.
He had ruthless people around him who found him to be extremely vulnerable.
They're all sycophants. They're parasites. Most of them financial parasites. He was surrounded by people who were just interested in how much money he can make for them.
Michael would go from advisor to advisor, attorney to attorney.
If he had an ache or pain, someone would say, take this. I ran out of this, can I have some more? Yes, of course. I mean, the guy had a couple doctors, so I don't think everyone knew exactly what he was taking.
Of all the doctors around Michael in the last 6 months of his life, one in particular emerged as a powerful player, Michael's personal spokesperson, Dr. Tomei Tomei. Shortly after I made my prediction that Michael had only 6 months to live, Dr. Tomei Tomei told the media that my claims were a complete fabrication. I was suspicious about Dr. Tomei, especially after I did a background check on him with the American Medical Association. I couldn't find any evidence that he was indeed a medical doctor.
I don't know where Tomei came from. He was there. He negotiated the deal. I just know that the way he scheduled some of the dates, Michael was unhappy with, because he never did a tour before. He was a business guy.
While Tomei and others discounted my prediction, Michael was rapidly fading. The worldwide media started to pick up the story.
The closer the tour came to arriving, the more shots we saw of him looking very haggard, in a wheelchair, on crutches or whatever.
Yeah, I noticed that he seemed a little tired because of the rehearsing, which would take a toll on anyone.
I know from Mr. Ortega, and I know from other sources that Michael was in pretty good shape, actually.
I think it was part publicity and part legitimate medical issues. I don't think anyone would deny that he was suffering in those last months of his life. He had issues with his lungs, he was anorexic, he was weak, he was in constant pain.
I was amazed how Tomei Tomei argued that Michael had a clean bill of health, especially in light of events 2 weeks earlier, when Tomei told the media Michael was too ill to fly to testify in the multi-million-dollar lawsuit launched against Michael by the Prince of Bahrain. Despite growing reports, Michael passed the physical exam for the 50 shows that has since been called into question.
How is it humanly possible that he passed the physical for the AEG performance in London? One of the things that we all want to see is that physical examination. How in the world could it possibly be unless somebody had their eyes closed?
How does a so-called healthy person end up in cardiac arrest in the back of an ambulance? The real-life story doesn't match up with the story we are told on paper.
This is the ambulance that rushed Michael to the UCLA hospital on June 25th. The whole world's eyes were watching this ambulance, praying that Michael Jackson was still alive. Michael's body was placed on this gurney. He was administered oxygen. They were trying everything to revive him. Unfortunately, by the time Michael arrived at UCLA hospital, it was too late. Dr. Murray was inside this ambulance the whole time by Michael's side, and Dr. Murray became the focus of the investigation surrounding Michael's death.
This story doesn't end with Dr. Murray. This story runs much deeper.
I can't stand for a person to be dishonest, number one. I can't stand for a person to cheat another person, no matter what. And I believe in all fairness because I'm fair. I love people, but I don't like the evilness in people.
You can separate that, huh?
This is the drug that Dr. Murray said that he gave Michael Jackson.
Anybody witness what happened? No, just the doctor, sir.
Before this is all over, you will find other people being named.